Welcome back to another Bible talk in our series. I really appreciate you following and coming along in our journey of discovering new riches in the scriptures. So today is we're going to be looking at a text from 1 Corinthians, which is we're going to be reading this, it's a very short passage actually, and it talks about wise speech. So let's dig right in. The problem with the Corinthians, the community, is unity. Paul sees that they're divided. And one of the reasons why they're divided is because they're using their skills or their wealth or whatever they have to get ahead of somebody else. They want to have an advantage over somebody. When you have stratification like that, when you have social status and social classes in the community, that means there's division. Everyone's trying to be ahead of somebody else. Now, one of the ways that the Corinthians are trying to get ahead of the next guy is a thing known as wise speech. Now, in the ancient world, if you wanted to be one of the top 1%er and you wanted to make a lot of money, it was the art of persuasion. It's the able to speak. Politicians were the highest paid people in the ancient world. Even in the high schools, they had manuals teaching the high school kids how to speak properly, how to persuade people, which is a great art because it'll be a big advantage to them in the free world. So people in Corinth were trying to have wise speech. Now the irony is that Paul is using wise speech to persuade the Corinthians. But Paul's not using wise speech and being persuasive for his own personal benefit. He's doing it for the benefit of everybody else. He wants everybody else to have access to eternal life, to live the life of Christ. And so he needs to reverse this mentality where I have to be climbing up the ladder. And Paul is saying, you're going in the wrong direction. You're trying to go up the ladder. You got to be going down. And that's why Paul introduces us he says, that's why I preach Christ crucified. Now, the outsiders to the Christian community are looking in and they're saying, why are you worshiping a loser? He was crucified. It's because losers worship losers. So they had an identity problem, the Christians, and they wanted to compensate for this by looking really good and having great speech and being persuasive and everything. But Paul says that's exactly where you want to be. You've got to remember that why was Christ crucified? He was crucified for our benefit. He made a sacrifice for our benefit. That's why he wants us to go down to be at the lowest place in society is people who are crucified, people who are slaves, people who serve others. Because that's when you make sacrifices for the benefit of others, it produces unity. I mean, everyone loves it when people do have favors for us. Imagine being in a group where everybody likes you so much that they treat you like a king. And that's the kind of community that Paul wants. He wants us to imitate Christ who was crucified, because that's where the wisdom really is. And so don't go up the ladder of success, you got to go down. And people don't naturally do that. And so Paul is now introducing us to a way of a new attraction, to be drawn down to the lowest place, which is one who serves and others. That's where you're going to get unity. That's where you're going to advance. I'll just say this one thing. We Christians we're very good at a lot of things. Art. We have some of the most beautiful pictures and cathedrals. Our literature, our Catholic and Christian literature is just stunning. It's just very inspiring. You have the individual lives that have made sacrifices, and you see that people have, individuals that have made big contributions. There's one thing that we're really not good at, and that's unity. We have a history of schisms and reformations, and even churches trying to come together. There's infighting, and one group is against the other group. And Paul says that if we want to really know we're living Christ's life, you'll be unified, because the Christ's life is a life of sacrifice. It's being crucified. It's one who is people are benefiting from us, and that's how you're going to get unity. So Paul has the formula for unity. It's the most important character quality that we have, because that's a sign that we're living God's life, that we're living God's Spirit. If you don't have unity, then Paul said they don't have the Spirit. So Paul's got to correct that. So that's what he's using these letters for, is to make these corrections in us so that we'll live in the Spirit, that we'll live in the real great life that we were called to live. And the sign of that living is going to be, we're going to look just like Christ crucified, making sacrifices for other people's benefit. That's what unifies us. So that's the purpose of the letter. And Paul's going to walk us through now various ways that we can contribute to one another in unity. Well, I hope this video was helpful. When you go to church next Sunday and you hear the words of Paul in this letter, and he talks about this wise speech, you'll understand now that Paul is really calling us to a greater wisdom, which is foolishness to everybody else. But it's really wise because that's how we're going to be unified. Well, thank you for joining, and I'll see you in the next video.